Lotargar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Orc Mode workout. And today's not really a workout. Today is just one of my general physical preparedness days. You guys know right now I have 4 actual lifting sessions. But what a lot of people don't realize, and they don't understand, that I actually am an athlete. I'm actually working on all my athleticism and conditioning and stuff again. And I think as we get older, particularly you guys start getting past 35 or you get up into your 40s like I am, your conditioning matters. And I don't mean the bodybuilding term conditioning. I'm talking about conditioning work, as in your ability to handle higher volumes of training, right? Your resting heart rate, your cardiovascular capacity. And a lot of people don't realize that I actually do a lot of this stuff, and I've added a lot more in recently. Like on all of my off days, like today, I try to start my morning off with 300 kettlebell swings. All right, so any days that I don't actually get under a heavy barbell, I usually try to start my morning off with kettlebell swings, and I usually shoot for about 300 of them. So today, these were around 75. Some of them went a little over. I think I did 4 sets of 75 of these, and I filmed them. People are like, how long do you take between them? I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever, doesn't matter. Right, this is conditioning. This isn't our true endurance. We don't necessarily have to keep your heart rate up in between these, right? That's what endurance work is for. But as far as that goes, I actually ride my bike for an hour every day also. So I do get my actual endurance work to where you just keep a nice, steady, elevated heart rate. So this is my higher conditioning cardio. And here's the thing when it comes to things like GPP, which stands for General Physical Preparedness. You can actually build a lot of muscle off of GPP. A lot of people don't realize that. Is it going to be as good as getting under a heavy barbell? No. Are you going to get as strong as getting under a heavy barbell? Not even close. But GPP work counts. It will absolutely add training volume done correctly. I mean, the kettlebell swing is a perfect example. When we talk about things like greasing the groove on movement patterns, well, getting a hip hinge there, doing 300 extra hip hinges weighted, you can get some hypertrophy in those areas that are going to carry over possibly to your deadlift. So I think for people who want to build a deadlift, I think things like a kettlebell swing is a fantastic form of GPP. Now, would I be doing other stuff if I had more equipment available and had more room? Sure. I have a 2-bedroom condo. I don't really have my own driveway in a good street. I'm inside the city right now. When I buy a house later out in the suburbs or in the country, I'll probably get a sled. I'll probably get a prowler, right? I'll get better farmer's walk stuff, although I could use my trap bar for that. But kettlebell swings work great, and I think they're a good form of GPP if you're going to start someone on a basic program. Like if you're going to have someone start squatting and deadlifting and they need conditioning work added in, and most people do, this is a great exercise. And especially when you look at the way that it puts stress on the spine, this is actually considered by some leading experts to be a prehab exercise for your lower back. All right, what about guys like me who, due to, again, misloading the weight due to issue with my foot, pulled an erector, right? Might this have helped prevent that? Possibly. It's one reason I started adding them back in. I want to make sure that my lower back and my core and everything are strong. So we do extra core work. We do stuff like this. But the point is, with your general physical preparedness, all GPP work has the potential to be SPP. It can carry over, but what you are trying to do is build your strength and conditioning. It's resistance-oriented conditioning work, right? It's resistance-oriented conditioning work. So we're building cardiovascular capacity through lighter forms of resistance training that usually utilize the full body. And that's the point. Farmer's walk, kettlebell swing, barbell complexes, right? And I used to do a lot of barbell complexes for conditioning. I'll probably add some back in eventually and rotate through stuff because GPP is just that, it's GPP. You don't have to be consistent with all of it. Now, some people are pointing out, why aren't you sweating a lot? This is obviously taxing your cardiovascular system to some extent because I keep my place cold. I live in Houston. It is insanely hot. I can promise you that 90% of you out there have never experienced heat in your life, anything close to what Houston is. For those of you living in countries that don't use our temperature, like you go to Celsius, it gets up to 41, 42 regularly here in the summer with 99% humidity. Houston is insanely hot. No, it doesn't snow. No, it doesn't really freeze here, very rarely. It's hot. I keep my place like an ice locker. I don't like to sweat. Every time I walk my dog, I have to deal with sweating. And I have to walk my dog twice a day. So I keep my place cold. It's like a meat locker in here. So therefore, I don't necessarily sweat a lot. If I do start getting warm, I throw a box fan on top of the air conditioning. So people are like, why don't you break a sweat? Well, because a lot of times I have an air conditioner, like there's even a ceiling fan running. I have the AC on and there's a ceiling fan running in my weight room. So that's exactly what's going on. But again, some people are thinking, oh, Jason doesn't do any conditioning and it's just a fat. It's like, guys, come on, I don't think I look that fat there. But let's be realistic. I didn't actually fake the DEXA scan. That was actually real. And I'm probably leaner now than during the DEXA scan because I'm at the same body weight, but my legs are regrowing. And we see the different angles here of me in shorts when you guys see the different lifts. I think it's fair to say I have reasonable leg development. And I don't do any, minimal hypertrophy work like what people would think of. But let's come back to the point. All right, let's talk about our orc mode training. When you're a real athlete and you're doing these different performance elements, you don't really need much in the way of people would think of as traditional hypertrophy training. Why would you? Max effort work, dynamic effort work. Dynamic effort work gives you an enormous amount of volume. And then what about all your GPP? All right, all this stuff adds up real quick in terms of extra volume. You're going to hypertrophy from all of this, especially as you're rotating through these things. So again, I am doing true concurrent training. I have 2 max effort days, 2 dynamic effort days. Of course, we do some higher rep stuff for some of the smaller muscles. But then I have at least 2 days where I do this stuff. Now, I do endurance work every day. I do conditioning 7 days a week, like as far as regular endurance. But I have at least 2 days like this, like what you see me do through this whole video. It's going to be probably 12 minutes of my GPP and prehab and just lightweight stuff. This is my normal off days. This is at least twice a week. This is just normal. This just rotates into my training. So this is pretty common for me on, say, a Wednesday and a Saturday. This is what a Wednesday or Saturday morning looks like for me. And what you guys are seeing is the actual real training. But I don't think we can discount the GPP as part of it. Like this all contributes. And let's talk about being in shape. All right, when you're in shape and you are athletic and you have good conditioning, it affects your work capacity and it affects your recovery, right? We need active recovery. We can talk all we want about generating training workloads in the gym. We can talk about rest and recovery, but a lot of that is through your sleeping. It's through your downtime, your resting, because I take a lot of leisure time also. I sit down and I lay down at least an hour or 2 every day on the couch reading a book, all right? You need your leisure. I sleep at least 8 hours a night. I sometimes take naps, right? I get my sleep, I get my food. Like for me, I cut on over 3,000 calories. So, I'm getting my food. There's no problem with food intake. But all this active recovery and conditioning affects your work capacity and it affects your body's ability to clear waste products. If you are in shape, you recover faster and you can handle higher training volumes. And that's the big thing I've been doing with this orc mode, moving back forward to the way I used to love to do years ago. Work capacity, build work capacity. It's necessary to be a good athlete because we aren't just trying to go be bodybuilders or something. We're trying to be athletes. And that's kind of the principle of this whole orc mode thing. It's all this concurrent training and the extra conditioning and everything. It's about being an athlete. It's about being in shape. You don't want to just be big. You don't want to just look big. You need to be able to perform. You need to be able to perform. You need to be an athlete. And that includes conditioning, that includes speed, and that's why over time we train for these, and I've been building my work capacity. Face pulls, I figure I better do some of these on camera since I've got them in the new program and I'll need to throw a video up on that. I like to do, like 3 sets of 20. Now, are these taking these to absolute failure? Do we necessarily need a lot of progressive overload? No, because these are just supplemental work. These are a prehab exercise, right? They're gonna build a little more rear delt, a little more side delt, a little more trap, strengthen rotator cuffs. These are just being added to it. And since I'm doing a lot of these on my off days from lifting, I don't want to be so fatigued that it affects my rows or my overhead pressing. All right. And notice that the way I pull them, notice they go up behind the ears, notice the overhand grip. And I try to get just a little bit of a contraction at the top. And as I get further into the set, I sometimes hold it a little more. But again, band face pulls, like 3 sets of 20. It's just a nice lightweight movement. A lot of it's just getting blood flow to my shoulders. We're getting some extra training volume on some of those areas that might be weak, that might need some extra stability on things like my bench press and overhead press. And again, someone had pointed out, you should be doing face pulls instead of just those side laterals if you want big shoulders. And it's like, I do face pulls. I just don't always show them as a trained exercise because this is a smaller finesse movement. It's not always necessary to train it as a movement pattern with progressive overload. It just adds a little extra fatigue and volume. But again, I treat it as more of a prehab exercise than anything. An active recovery. Just like after this, I'm going to do a quick set of 20 with a really light overhead press. I'm not taking it to failure. It's just adding a little work capacity on my off days because I've got to do speed pressing, right? Dynamic effort in 2 days. Like yesterday was max effort, bench and overhead press and all of that. This is just coming in a little bit of active recovery. A little lightweight, it's like 65 pounds, right? Just a quick set of 20. Why? We're greasing the groove in the motor pattern. We're getting a little extra blood flow, increasing work capacity. It's just active recovery. And a lot of your GPP, that's what it's about. It's conditioning work, it's active recovery, but it's not taxing all the energy systems you need for your actual lifting. And it's all about programming it. It's all about staying within your total recoverable volume, but actually increasing your recoverable volume. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.